Elder Voss walked slowly through the great archive. His feet made no sound on the cold stone floor. Around him, holographic stars floated in the darkness like frozen fireflies. Each light was a world. Each world had a story. He had seen most of them with his own eyes over 2 million years of life. The Norathi were the oldest living species in the galaxy. They had watched younger races rise and fall like waves on a shore. They had mapped every corner of known space. They feared nothing because they had seen everything. Or so the younger species believed. Voss stopped before a single star that glowed red instead of blue. Earth. A small world circling an average sun in an unremarkable arm of the galaxy. The humans who lived there had only recently learned to leave their own atmosphere. By galactic standards, they were infants taking their first steps. Yet this world was marked forbidden. No Norathi ship had approached it in 100,000 years. The door behind him opened. Scout Rin entered, with the energy of youth. She was barely 800 years old, still full of questions and hunger for answers. Voss remembered being like her once, long ago. "Elder," she said, bowing her head slightly, "the council has called a meeting. They want to discuss the Earth question again." Voss did not turn from the red star. "What is there to discuss?" "Our answer remains the same." Rin moved closer, her silver eyes reflecting the floating lights. "The younger species are mocking us. They say we have grown afraid in our old age. They say Earth is just a primitive world with primitive creatures. They want to know why the mighty Norathi hide from beings who cannot even travel faster than light. Let them mock, Elder. I also want to know." Rin's voice was soft but determined. "I have studied our history. I have read every record. But the files about Earth are sealed. Even I cannot access them. What happened there? What made us so afraid?" Voss finally turned. His ancient face showed no anger, only something that might have been sadness. "It is not the humans we fear, young one. It is what sleeps beside them." Before Rin could ask more, Voss walked past her toward the council chambers. She followed, her mind burning with new questions. The council chamber was full when they arrived. Representatives from 40 species sat in rising circles around a central platform. The Norathi seats were at the highest level, a position of honor earned through age and wisdom. But today, Voss felt those seats were more like a cage. Commander Leth of the Torani Federation stood at the center platform. He was tall and proud, his blue skin marked with the scars of many battles. His species was only 50,000 years old, young enough to still believe in simple answers. "The matter is simple," Leth announced to the chamber. "Earth sits in unclaimed space. Its resources are vast. Its people are primitive but numerous. They could be useful allies or dangerous enemies if another power reaches them first. I propose a formal observation mission." Murmurs of agreement rose from the younger species. Voss remained silent. "The Norathi have blocked all contact with Earth for 100 millennia, Leth continued. "When asked why, they speak in riddles. It is not the humans we fear." "What does this mean?" "Fear of what?" "We demand an explanation, or we will proceed without Norathi approval." The chamber fell quiet. All eyes turned to the highest seats. Voss rose slowly. Despite his age, his voice carried clearly to every corner of the room. "You want an explanation?" he said. "Very well. 100,000 years ago, the Norathi were curious about Earth, just as you are now. We sent a research team of 1,000 of our best scientists and explorers. They landed on the largest continent. They planned to study the primitive humans who lived in caves and hunted with stone tools." He paused. The chamber was completely silent. 3 returned. Only 3. They came back changed, broken. They could not speak clearly about what they had seen. Their minds had touched something too vast, too old, too different for even Norathi thought to hold. Before the last one died, she wrote a final report. It contained only 6 words. "What words?" Leth demanded. "They are not alone down there." Leth laughed, but it was an uncertain sound. "Alone? You lost 1,000 Norathi to primitive humans and their wild animals? Perhaps your ancestors were not as mighty as the stories say." Voss did not rise to the insult. "We did not lose them to humans. The humans never knew we were there. We lost them to what lives beneath the humans. What has always lived there? What sleeps and dreams and waits? Speak plainly, Elder. I am speaking as plainly as I can. There are beings on Earth that existed before our species took its first breath, before the first Norathi looked up at the stars and wondered what they were. These beings were already ancient. They chose Earth as their resting place. The humans evolved in their shadow, shaped by their presence like plants shaped by the sun. The chamber erupted in noise. Some laughed, some shouted accusations of senility. But Voss noticed that the oldest representatives, those whose species had existed for more than 1,000,000 years, said nothing. They remembered the old stories too. Enough. Leth raised his hand for silence. The council will vote. The Norathi objection is noted but not supported by evidence. All in favor of the observation mission. The vote was not close. The younger species carried it easily. Voss sat down. Rin leaned toward him. Elder, what will happen now? They will send a ship. Probably your ship, since you are young and eager. Rin felt a chill. And what will we find? Hopefully nothing. The beings I speak of have slept for millennia. Perhaps they will not notice one small ship. Perhaps you will observe the humans and return safely with your report of a primitive but interesting species. He looked at her with eyes that had seen empires turn to dust. But if something does notice you, run. Do not try to understand it. Do not try to communicate. Simply run and pray that it does not follow. The council meeting ended. Representatives filed out, already planning their mission to the Forbidden World. Rin remained behind, staring at the red star on the great map. Earth. Such a small world. Such ordinary creatures living there. What could possibly frighten the Norathi so deeply that they would avoid it for 100,000 years? She would find out soon enough. In the deep archives, far below the council chamber, ancient records sat in sealed containers. Records that spoke of beings called many names across many cultures. The sleepers. The old ones. The dreamers in the dark. The humans who lived above them had their own names. Found in myths and legends they thought were only stories. But the Norathi knew better. They knew that some stories are true, and some truths are better left sleeping. Far away, circling its ordinary sun, Earth turned slowly through the darkness of space. Its people went about their small lives, unaware that they were about to receive visitors, unaware that they had never truly been alone. And deep beneath the surface, in places no human had ever reached, something vast and patient continued its endless dream. The Norathi observation vessel moved through space like a ghost. Its hull bent light around itself, making it invisible to any watching eyes. Scout Rin sat alone at the main console, watching data streams flow across her screens. She had been traveling for 3 standard months. Earth grew larger in her sensors with each passing day. The blue world looked peaceful from this distance. White clouds drifted over green and brown continents. Oceans sparkled in the light of the yellow sun. It looked like any other habitable world. Nothing special, nothing frightening. Rin adjusted her receivers to capture human broadcasts. Their electromagnetic signals leaked into space constantly. Music, voices, images. She had learned their languages during the journey. A simple task for a Norathi mind. What she found confused her. These humans were strange creatures. They made beautiful art and waged terrible wars. They showed kindness to strangers and cruelty to their own families. They built towers that touched the sky and destroyed forests that had stood for thousands of years. They were chaos given form, yet somehow they survived. They even seemed to thrive. Elder Voss had said something before she left. The humans are not the threat, but pay attention to how they live. Notice what they have learned to ignore. That will tell you more than any sensor reading. She did not understand then. She was beginning to understand now. Far below, on the surface of that blue world, a man named Kang Tae sat in a small government office in Seoul. He was 60 years old, retired from the military. But retirement had not meant rest. The government had given him a new job with no official title. His task was simple. Prepare for the day when humanity learned it was not alone. Most people thought that day was far away. Kang Tae was not so sure. His phone rang. The caller ID showed a name he knew well, Yoon Hana. One of the brightest young scientists in the country. She worked at a research facility outside the city. studying things that most people could not pronounce. "Colonel," she said when he answered, "we need to meet. Something has happened." 1 hour later, Kang Tae sat across from her in a small cafe. Yunhana was 32 years old, with sharp eyes behind round glasses. She looked like she had not slept in days. "Our satellites detected something near Jupiter," she said quietly. "Gravitational distortions. Something large passed through the outer system 3 weeks ago. It slowed down. It is still there." Kang Tae sipped his coffee. "A ship? We think so. The distortion pattern suggests advanced propulsion technology. Nothing we can build. Nothing any nation on Earth can build. Have you reported this?" "Only to you. The data is classified at the highest level." She paused. "But that is not why I called you. There is something else. Something I discovered by accident while analyzing the Jupiter readings." She pulled out a tablet and showed him a graph. It looked like a heartbeat, slow and steady. "This signal is coming from beneath the Earth itself. Deep beneath, thousands of kilometers down, past the mantle, near the outer core. I found it because the Jupiter readings made my instruments more sensitive. This signal has always been there. We just never noticed it before." Kang Tae studied the graph. "What is it?" "I do not know. It is not geological. It is not any natural phenomenon I can identify. The best way I can describe it is..." She hesitated. "It is like something breathing. Something very large, breathing very slowly." High above the planet, Ren's ship detected the same signal. Her instruments screamed warnings, energy readings that should not exist, patterns that matched ancient Norathi records from 100 millennia ago. She should have turned back. Elder Voss had warned her. But she was young, and the young always believe they are different. Special. Immune to the dangers that caught others. She took her ship closer. Just a little closer. Just enough to get better readings. That was her mistake. On the southern coast of Korea, an island called Jeju sat in the blue waters of the sea. It was a beautiful place, born from ancient volcanoes. Tourists came to see its beaches and mountains. Farmers grew oranges and raised horses. Fishermen went out each morning as their fathers and grandfathers had done. Baek Sok was one of those fishermen. He was 55 years old, with a weathered face and strong hands. He did not care about politics or science or whatever was happening in the busy cities to the north. He cared about the sea, the fish, and the small pleasures of a simple life. That morning, he took his boat out before sunrise. The water was calm. Stars still filled the sky. He cast his nets and waited, enjoying the silence. Then he saw the light. It fell from the sky like a wounded bird, leaving a trail of fire across the darkness. It hit the water 200 meters from his boat, with a sound like thunder. Steam rose in a great cloud. Any sensible man would have turned and sailed for shore. Baek Sok was sensible, but he was also curious, and something in the way that light fell made him think of his grandmother's stories. Stories of spirits falling from heaven. Stories of visitors from the stars. He started his engine and moved toward the impact site. The object floated among the waves, half submerged. It was not a meteor. It was too smooth, too regular. Metal that gleamed silver in the growing dawn light. And there, clinging to its surface, was a figure, not human. The shape was wrong. Too tall, too thin, with skin that seemed to shift colors with every breath, but clearly alive, clearly in need of help. Baek Sok pulled alongside the wreckage. The creature looked at him with large silver eyes full of pain and fear. It said something in a language he did not understand. He reached out his hand. The creature hesitated. In its mind, 1,000 warnings screamed. This was a human. This was the forbidden world. Contact was not allowed. She should swim away and let the ocean take her before she violated every law her people held sacred. But her body was broken. Her ship was destroyed. And this strange man with his weathered face was offering help with no thought of danger. She took his hand. Baek Sok pulled her onto his boat. She was lighter than he expected. He wrapped her in old blankets from his cabin. She shivered, not from cold, but from shock. He studied her face. Not so different from human, really. Strange, but not ugly. Well, he said in Korean, not expecting her to understand. I have pulled many strange things from this sea. Fish with 2 heads, old bombs from the war, a refrigerator once, still working. But you are the strangest catch yet. To his surprise, she answered in broken Korean. Her translation device was damaged but still functioning. You are not afraid, Baek-sok laughed. It was a warm sound, carrying no mockery. My grandmother used to say the sea holds stranger things than we can imagine. Dragons sleep in the deep waters, spirits walk the beaches at night. I grew up with those stories. If I am honest, meeting you feels almost normal. He offered her a bottle. Soju, it will warm you. Rin took the bottle with trembling hands. This was not how first contact was supposed to happen. This man should be screaming, running, calling others to capture or kill her. Instead, he was offering her alcohol and speaking of dragons. Perhaps Elder Voss was right. Perhaps there was something different about these humans. Something that made them comfortable with the impossible. She drank. The liquid burned her throat but spread warmth through her broken body, far below the boat, far below the ocean floor. Something stirred. Not waking, not quite, but aware, in some vast and ancient way, that something new had arrived. Something from the stars, something that carried the taste of distant worlds. The island of Jeju had many old names. One of them, forgotten by most, meant the place where gods sleep. The gods were still sleeping, but they were starting to dream of visitors. 3 days passed on the island of Jeju. Baek-sok kept the alien hidden in his small house near the shore. He told no one. He called no authorities. When his neighbors asked why he had not gone fishing, he said he was feeling unwell. It was not entirely a lie. His world had changed. He needed time to understand it. Rin spent those days repairing her communication device. Her body healed faster than a human body would. But the crash had damaged her badly. She could walk now, though slowly. She could think clearly, though her thoughts kept returning to the same question. Why was this man helping her? She asked him on the 3rd evening. They sat on his small porch, watching the sun sink into the sea. Orange light painted the clouds. Somewhere in the distance, a bird called. You do not know me, she said. Her Korean had improved as her translation device repaired itself. You do not know my species. I could be dangerous. I could be carrying diseases that would destroy your kind, yet you brought me into your home. You fed me. You gave me your bed while you slept on the floor. Why? Baek-sok poured 2 cups of tea. He handed one to her before answering. When I was young, my grandmother raised me. My parents died in an accident when I was 3 years old. I do not remember them, but I remember her. Every night, she told me stories, stories of the old times, before Korea was Korea, stories of spirits and dragons and beings from beyond the sky. He sipped his tea. She said our island was special. She said things slept beneath it. Great things, older than humans, older than the mountains. She said they were not evil, not good, just old. And she said we must be kind to strangers, because we never know who might be more than they appear. Rin felt something cold move through her. Your grandmother told you about the sleepers? That is what she called them. Yes, the sleeping ones. She said they dreamed beneath the earth, and sometimes their dreams leaked into our world. That is where ghosts come from, she said. Not dead humans, but the dreams of ancient things. And you believed her? I believe that she believed. And I believe that she knew things I did not understand. He looked at Rin with calm eyes. When I pulled you from the water, I thought of her. I thought she would have told me to help you. So I did. Far away, in Seoul, a different conversation was happening. Kang Tae and Yoon Hana sat in a basement laboratory with a woman named Park Nari. She was 40 years old, a professor of folklore at the National University. She had spent her career studying myths and legends from around the world. Most of her colleagues thought her work was useless. What value was there in old stories? But Kang Tae had found her research fascinating. And now, terrifying. You are telling me, he said slowly, that every ancient culture on Earth has the same story? Park Nari nodded. Her office was full of books and papers, photographs and artifacts. A lifetime of study surrounded her. Not exactly the same. The details change. The names are different. But the core is always there. Every civilization, on every continent, separated by oceans and thousands of years, tells stories of beings that sleep beneath the world. She spread papers across her desk, maps covered in colored pins. Each pin marked a location where ancient texts spoke of the sleepers. In Korea, we call them various names. The mountain spirits, the dragon kings of the sea. In Japan, they speak of kami that have slumbered since before time began. In China, the oldest texts describe beings that existed before heaven and earth separated. She pointed to other pins. The Norse called them the giants who sleep until the end of the world. The Greeks spoke of titans imprisoned beneath the earth. The Aztecs believed their pyramids stood above the resting places of gods. Aboriginal Australians have stories of the dreamtime beings who shaped the world and then lay down to sleep forever. Yoon Hana leaned forward. These could all be coincidence. Humans create myths to explain what they do not understand. Every culture invents gods. That is what I thought too, Park Nari admitted. Until I started comparing the details. These myths do not just agree that something sleeps beneath us. They agree on where. She pulled out a global map covered in markings. I plotted every location mentioned in ancient texts. Every sacred mountain, every forbidden cave, every place where humans built temples to honor the sleeping ones. Then I compared my map to Dr. Yoon's geological surveys. She placed a second map beside the first. The markings lined up almost perfectly. The ancient peoples knew. They did not have our technology, but they knew. They built their most sacred sites directly above whatever is down there. They were not inventing stories. They were recording what they felt, what they somehow understood without understanding. Kang Tae sat back in his chair. His military mind was trained to assess threats, to plan responses. But how do you plan for this? His phone buzzed. A message from a contact in the Coast Guard. Something had crashed near Jeju Island 3 nights ago. Satellite images showed a vessel that was not from any nation on Earth. We need to go to Jeju, he said. On the island, Rin had finally repaired her communication device. She activated it with trembling hands. The device searched for signals, found the hidden frequencies that Norathi vessels used. Elder Voss answered immediately. His holographic image flickered in the air of Baek Sok's small house. The old alien looked exhausted, worried, afraid. Scout Rin, you are alive. Thank the ancient stars. Elder, I crashed. My ship is destroyed. A human has been helping me. He means no harm. I do not understand why, but he has shown me nothing but kindness. Voss's expression shifted to something complicated. Where exactly did you crash? Rin gave the coordinates. She watched Voss's face go pale. You must leave immediately. You are on one of the primary sites, one of the places where they rest. Elder, I cannot leave. My ship is gone. The human, Baek Sok, he has been explaining their myths to me. They know something sleeps beneath them. They have always known. How is that possible? Before Voss could answer, the ground shook. It was not an earthquake. Rin had felt earthquakes before on other worlds. This was different. This was a pulse, like a heartbeat, like something vast, taking a single breath after an eternity of stillness. Baek Sok grabbed the doorframe. His face was calm, but his eyes showed understanding. Grandmother said this would happen someday. She said the sleepers would feel something new, something that did not belong. Through the communication device, Voss's voice was urgent. It is sensing the technology. Our devices carry energy signatures that the Huan recognize as foreign. They are dreamers. Scout Rin, they dream of the cosmos they knew before they chose to sleep. When they sense something from beyond Earth, it enters their dreams, and when their dreams change, reality changes with them. Outside, the sea was pulling back from the shore. Not a tsunami, something else. As if the water itself was afraid, Rin looked at Baek Sok. We need to go inland, away from the coast. He nodded and grabbed a bag he always kept ready. Emergency supplies, water, food, a radio. He had lived on this island his whole life. He knew that the sea gave much, but it could take everything. They ran together into the growing darkness. Behind them, the ground pulsed again, and beneath the island, something that had not truly noticed. The small creatures living above it for 1,000 centuries slowly became aware that the universe had come knocking at its door. It did not wake. Not yet. But it began to dream of visitors. And its dreams, leaking into the world above, made the night feel thicker, the shadows deeper, the stars somehow both farther and closer than they had ever been before. Humanity had lived beside these beings since the first ape looked up at the moon with wondering eyes. Now, for the first time, one of those beings was looking back. The military helicopter landed on Jeju Island as the sun rose. Kang Tae stepped onto the ground and felt immediately that something was wrong. The air was heavy, the light seemed strange, as if passing through water. Local officials met him with confused faces. They had felt the tremors. They had seen the sea behave strangely. But they had no explanations. The island's instruments showed nothing unusual. Yet everyone felt it. A pressure. A presence. Something vast and invisible weighing down on the world. Yoon Hana set up her equipment near the coast. Park Nari interviewed locals, gathering stories of what they had seen and felt. Kang Tae organized search teams to find the crashed vessel and whoever had been inside. They found Baek Sok's boat first, still floating where he had abandoned it 3 days before. Then they tracked him to a small cave in the volcanic hills, where he sat with a creature that made Kang Tae stop breathing for a long moment. An alien. An actual alien. Thin and silver-eyed, wrapped in blankets. Watching the approaching humans with fear and wonder mixed in equal measure, Baek Sok stood up slowly. She is not dangerous. She has been hurt. Her name is Rin. Kang Tae had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. He had read every theory, planned every response. None of it had prepared him for the reality of looking into eyes that had seen other stars. I am Kang Tae, he said carefully. I represent the government of this nation. We mean you no harm. Rin studied him. Her translation device converted his words, analyzed his tone, measured his heart rate through subtle vibrations in the air. He was telling the truth, or at least believed he was. My name is Rin. I am a scout of the Norathi Exploration Corps. My ship crashed. I should not be here. My people have avoided your world for 100,000 years. Now I understand why. The tremors, Yoon Hana said, stepping forward. They started when you crashed. Are you causing them? No. I am only a catalyst. Something beneath this island is reacting to my presence. To my technology. To proof that life exists beyond your world. Rin stood with difficulty. You must understand. My people are the oldest living species in the galaxy. We have explored every corner of known space. But we never returned to Earth after our first visit. We lost almost everyone we sent. What killed them? Kang Tae asked. Nothing killed them. They simply stopped being what they were. Their minds touched something too large, too ancient, too different. They could not hold their sanity. Only 3 survived, and they were never the same. Park Nari pushed forward, her eyes bright with terrible excitement. The Hwan. You are talking about the Hwan? Rin stared at her. You know that name? It appears in the oldest Korean texts. Hwan. It means vast, or grand, or sometimes brilliant. The ancient scholars used it to describe beings that existed before heaven and earth. I thought it was mythology. It is history. The Hwan were among the first conscious beings in the universe. They existed when galaxies were young. Stars were born and died while they watched. Eventually, they grew tired. They sought places to rest. Some came here, to your small blue world. They have been sleeping beneath you for longer than your species has existed. The ground pulsed again, weaker than before, but still enough to make everyone grab for balance. Every time it does that, Yoon Hana said, my instruments detect energy patterns that should be impossible. Whatever is down there is not just large. It is powerful beyond anything I can measure. Rin nodded. The Hwan do not simply sleep. They dream. And their dreams are not like ours. When a Hwan dreams, reality bends around it. Your myths, your legends, your monsters and miracles. All of them are shadows cast by dreaming minds beneath your feet. Silence fell over the group. The soldiers looked at each other with wide eyes. Even Kang Tae, who had prepared for decades, felt his certainty crumbling. Why would such beings choose Earth? He asked finally. We do not know. Perhaps your world had qualities they valued. Perhaps it was simply chance. But here is the strange thing. Rin looked at the humans around her with something like awe. You survived. You evolved here, in the shadow of sleeping gods. And you not only survived, you thrived. We did not know they were there, Baekseok said simply. That is exactly the point. My people could not look at them without breaking. Your people lived above them for 300,000 years and never noticed. Your minds adapted. Your souls, if that word has meaning, learned to exist beside the incomprehensible without being destroyed by it. She gestured at the world around them. Your myths are not just stories. They are survival mechanisms. Your ability to believe in things you cannot understand, to accept mystery, to live with questions that have no answers. These are not weaknesses. They are the greatest strengths any species has ever evolved. The ground pulsed again. This time, something new happened. The air filled with a sound that was not quite sound, a vibration that touched something deeper than ears. Yoon-hana checked her instruments with shaking hands. The energy readings are increasing. I think it is becoming more aware. Then we need to go down, Kang Tae said. Everyone stared at him. Down, Rin repeated. Into the earth? Toward the Hwan? You said it is reacting to you. To your technology. If we can show it that you mean no harm, perhaps it will go back to sleep. Or perhaps it will destroy all of us. Kang Tae smiled, though there was little humor in it. We humans have a long history of walking toward things that might destroy us. It is how we learned that fire could be controlled instead of feared. It is how we crossed oceans and reached for the moon. If something vast and ancient is waking beneath our island, I want to look it in the eye. Baekseok laughed. It was a warm sound, surprising everyone. I like this man. He thinks like a fisherman. When the storm comes, you do not hide in the harbor. You sail into it and find the calm center. The group made their way down into the volcanic caves that honeycombed the island. Park Nari led them, following maps she had made from ancient texts. The old Koreans had known about these passages. They had left markers, warnings, prayers carved into the stone. The deeper they went, the stranger things became. The air grew warm, then cool, then warm again with no pattern. Light seemed to bend in impossible ways. Sounds echoed from directions that did not exist. Rin felt her sanity stretching. Her Norathi mind was trained for alien environments. But this was different. This was not alien. This was something older than the concept of alien. Older than the difference between self and other. She looked at the humans around her. They were uncomfortable, yes. Afraid, certainly. But they were not breaking. They walked forward with steady steps, their minds bending but not shattering. How? How could such young creatures handle what had destroyed the ancient Norathi? The answer came as they reached a vast underground chamber. Natural stone gave way to something else. Walls that seemed to flow like frozen water. Shapes that suggested meaning without quite having any. And in the center, far below them, a presence that filled every particle of air with its dreaming thoughts. Not a body. Not exactly. More like an impression of a body, a shadow cast by something that existed in more dimensions than 3. Vast beyond measuring. Old beyond counting, dreaming of stars and darkness and the slow dance of galaxies across eternity. The humans looked at it. They felt their minds stretch and strain. But they did not look away. And the Hwan, in whatever way such a being could be said to notice, became aware that something very small and very brave was standing at the edge of its dreams. For the first time in millions of years, it paid attention to the tiny creatures that lived above its resting place. What it saw made it curious enough to dream a different dream. The chamber was silent except for the slow pulse of the dreaming Hwan. Kang Tae stood at the edge of the impossible, looking down at something his mind could not fully hold. It was like trying to see the whole ocean while standing in a single wave. He did not look away. Beside him, Hana watched her instruments display readings that broke every law of physics she knew. Energy flowing in directions that did not exist, time moving at different speeds in different parts of the chamber, reality itself bending around the dreaming presence like water around a stone. "It knows we are here," she whispered. "Yes," Rin confirmed. The Norathi was trembling, her silver skin pale with fear. "It is watching us, tasting us, deciding what we are." Park Nari stepped forward. Her eyes were wet with tears, but her voice was steady. "I have spent my whole life studying the old stories. I thought they were metaphors, beautiful lies that humans told to make sense of a confusing world. But they were true. All of them. The sleeping gods, the dragons in the deep, the spirits of mountain and sea. They were true." Baek Sok put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "My grandmother would have liked you. She always said the scholars were too quick to call things myths." The presence shifted. Not physically, not exactly, but something changed in the way it paid attention. Its dreams, which had been drifting through memories of ancient stars, now focused on the small creatures standing at its threshold. Rin fell to her knees. The weight of that attention pressed down on her like gravity from a collapsing star. "I cannot," she gasped. "It is too much. My mind cannot hold it." But Kang Tae remained standing. His legs shook. His heart raced. Sweat dripped down his face. Yet he did not fall. "Look at them," Rin whispered to herself, watching the humans. "They are standing." "How are they standing?" Hana answered without looking away from the presence below. "We have practice. Every human alive has ancestors who survived ice ages and plagues and wars. Ancestors who looked at the vast darkness between stars and decided to map it anyway. Ancestors who buried their dead and wondered what came next, knowing they might never find out." She took a breath that shook only slightly. "We have always lived beside the incomprehensible. We just forgot that it was literal." The presence shifted again. Something like curiosity entered its dreams. Something like recognition. Images flooded the chamber, not seen with eyes but felt directly in the mind. Ancient Earth. Before humans, when different creatures walked the land. The Huan arriving, settling into the depths, beginning their long sleep. The first primitive humans emerging, small and frightened, making tools from stone and fire from friction. The Huan had watched them. Not with interest, exactly. They were too vast for interest in individual creatures. But with something like patience. The humans were part of their dreaming now. Their lives, their deaths, their struggles and triumphs, all became threads in the endless tapestry of Huan dreams, and the humans, without knowing it, had shaped themselves around that dreaming. Their myths and religions, their capacity for wonder and terror, their ability to believe in things beyond understanding, all of it evolved in response to the vast presence sleeping beneath their feet. Kang Tae understood. The realization came not in words but in a feeling that filled his chest. "We are caretakers," he said aloud. "That is why we survive. That is why they chose Earth. They needed someone to watch over their resting place, to keep the world stable, to be a buffer between their dreams and reality." The presence pulsed. Agreement? Acknowledgement? It was impossible to tell. Rin pulled herself to her feet with enormous effort. Elder Voss was wrong. He thought the humans were victims, living in ignorance beside dangerous powers. But you are partners. You and the Huan have been in a relationship for 300,000 years. You simply did not know it. "We knew," Baek Sok said quietly. "We always knew. We just called it different names. Gods, spirits, the sublime. That feeling when you stand at the edge of the ocean and realize how small you are. We have always known something vast was watching." The presence began to withdraw. Not leaving, not exactly, but settling back into deeper sleep. The curiosity that had awakened it was satisfied. These small creatures were not threats. They were not invaders. They were the same humans who had always lived above, going about their small lives, while the Huan dreamed their endless dreams. The pressure in the chamber eased. Rin gasped with relief. The humans' relaxed muscles they had not realized were tensed, but before the presence fully retreated, it left something behind. A gift, or perhaps a message. Images of stars and galaxies, of distances that made the entire planet Earth seem like a single grain of sand. And among those images, a feeling of approval, of gratitude, of something that might, in a being so vast and ancient, be called affection. The humans had kept the world turning above the Huan for 300,000 years. They had filled it with life and noise and chaos, making it a rich and interesting place to dream about. In return, the Huan had given them myths and wonders, dreams that leaked through the barriers between sleeping minds and waking reality. It was a fair exchange. It always had been. The group climbed back to the surface. The sun was setting again, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. The tremors had stopped. The heavy presence in the air had lifted. Rin's communication device buzzed. Elder Voss appeared in holographic form, his ancient face showing an emotion she had never seen before. "Hope, the council is watching," Voss said. "Your instruments transmitted everything. We saw the Huan. We saw the humans standing before it without breaking. They are different from us," Rin said. "They evolved to live beside the impossible. It is written into their souls." Kang Te stepped forward. He spoke directly into the communication device, knowing that representatives of 40 species were listening. "Earth is not a primitive backwater," he said. "It is a sanctuary, a place where beings older than your civilizations chose to rest. My people did not know this until today. We built our cities and fought our wars and never realized what slept beneath us." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "But now we know, and we understand our responsibility. We are the guardians of the Huan. We do not do this because we are strong or wise or powerful. We do it because we are stubborn, because we refuse to be afraid of things too large to understand, because we look at the infinite and decide to have breakfast anyway." In the council chamber, thousands of light years away, Elder Voss laughed. It was the first time he had laughed in 300 years. "The humans are insane," he said to the assembled representatives. "They live above sleeping gods and worry about weather and politics. They share a world with beings that could reshape reality. And they spend their time making art and falling in love and arguing about trivial things." He smiled, showing ancient teeth. "They are either the bravest species in the galaxy or the most foolish. Perhaps both. Either way, they have earned our respect. The Norathi will remove Earth from the forbidden list, but we will not send ships or delegations. Instead, we will watch. We will learn. These humans have much to teach us about living beside the unknowable." The communication ended. The hologram faded. Rin looked at Baxiok. "Your people are strange." He shrugged. "We are what we are. No better, no worse. I think you are better. I think you are extraordinary." The fisherman smiled and offered her another bottle of soju. "Stay a while. I will teach you to fish. You will see that we are ordinary. Wonderfully, stubbornly ordinary." The night deepened. Stars appeared above the island, the same stars that the Huan had watched being born billions of years ago. Beneath the earth, the ancient presence settled back into its endless dream. Above, the small creatures called humans went about their small lives, unaware that they had just changed the history of the galaxy. Yoon Hana began planning how to study the Huan without disturbing them. Park Nari started writing a book that would take 20 years to finish. Kang Te made calls to world leaders, explaining things that could not be explained, and on a small porch overlooking the sea, Baksok and Rin sat in comfortable silence, watching the waves roll in. "Will you stay?" he asked eventually. "I cannot go home. My ship is destroyed. And..." She hesitated. "I do not want to go home. Your world is strange and frightening and full of sleeping gods, but it is also beautiful, and your people are kind to strangers, even strangers from the stars. Then stay. I have a spare room. The fishing is good, the sunsets are better, and sometimes, when the wind is right, you can almost hear the old ones dreaming." Rin smiled. It felt strange on her face, a human expression that her people did not use. But it felt right. "I will stay," she said. "Teach me to fish." Far below, something vast and patient dreamed of small creatures with brave hearts. In its dream, they walked among stars and made friends with strangers from distant worlds. It was a good dream. The Huan hoped it would come true. It usually did. After all, the humans had been exceeding expectations for 300,000 years. The Juan saw no reason for them to stop now.